Happy New Year to all my friends. I am very excited to create this video on TCS Scrum Master scenario based interview questions as it's my first video of this year. But before that, I would like to take this opportunity to thank all my LinkedIn, Facebook friends and subscribers like you who are sharing their real life interview questions with me. Based on that, I am able to create all these videos for our viewers. If you also like to share your experience or want to come as a guest in our video and help others, please send me an email at sunandsharrma@gmail.com. You will find the email in description box. So friends, today we are going to talk about TCS USA Scrum Master scenario based interview questions. All these questions will check your practical experience as a Scrum Master. So watch complete video with full explanation. Please mention in comments how you like this video and if you want second part soon for this. Hello friends, my name is Sunand Sharma and welcome to our YouTube channel's Careers Talk. I am an Agile consultant based in Den Haag, Netherlands, and if you are visiting our channel Careers Talk first time, make sure you hit the subscribe button. When you subscribe to this channel, you will get 3 benefits. The very first benefit is for your next Scrum Master Project Manager interviews, you will be more confident after watching real world interview questions and answers from large multinational companies which I am posting regularly. The second benefit is you will learn more about different exams, certifications like PMP, PSM, CSM, PMI, ACP, Scaled Agile. And the third benefit is you will learn a lot from explanation videos on project management, agile methodologies, along with different frameworks like Scrum, SAFe, and Kanban. Friends, every single week I will upload at least one video for you. So click on the subscribe button right away and make sure you hit the bell icon to turn on the notification. At the end of the video, if you like my efforts, please hit like. Your one like is big motivation for me. So friends, let's start with Scrum Master interview questions and answers. Friends, best way to benefit from this video is to pause the video after every questions and try to frame your own answer and then compare with given answer. Look towards these answers as pointers only and always try to add your real world example, infuse your experience in answers to make them unique. Interview consists of 3 rounds. First round and the second round will be the technical and the third round consists of 2 parts, behavioral and HR round. It will take approximately 2 to 6 weeks to complete interview process. The first question is, in COVID times, all team members working remotely and no longer possible to have face-to-face interaction. So the first adoption was to use any of the online meetup tools. While this is amazing on paper, in practice, this did not work that well. At offshore, some people have a bad connection, some people have a lot of environmental noise, and the biggest challenge are the people with small children. Not only do they kind of often interrupt, but it even now means those people can no longer make sure they are available at time X. They can only work when the children are asleep, so their schedule is quite random. This has all meant that all Scrum meetings are not that helpful and near impossible to conduct. What do you do as a Scrum Master in such situation? Will you substitute Scrum stand-up meetings? Will you stop conducting them? The problem is with the work from home situation created by COVID, not with the Scrum meetings. We should not focus on removing the meetings, but on finding ways to improve the work from home situation for those affected. All Scrum meetings have a purpose. The daily allow the development team to coordinate and plan their work for next 24 hours. During sprint planning, the team plans their work for the next sprint. Refinement allow the product owner to add details to what need to be built next. The review allow the team to collect valuable feedback about the product. The retrospective allow the team to identify issues with their process and improve on it. Can we replace all these meetings with email, chat, documents, tools? Sure we can. There are a lot of open source projects that function like this, with people that really see each other face to face or hear each other in a conference call. They might work on different continents on different time zones. However, this setup introduces delays. Things take more time, so care must be taken when synchronizing work and planning things out. If we give up on meetings and do them rarely, we will introduce delay. We will miss many opportunities to synchronize work and plan things out. We will also introduce risk of building the wrong product because problems are spotted later, feedback is received later, and we can move longer in the wrong direction before realizing that we need to take corrective actions. Let's try to focus on ways to improve the way all works, not on finding ways to go around the Scrum meetings. Find ways to keep the synchronization points and planning opportunities or without face time in a meeting with all the people or just some of them. We might not be able to fix everyone's issues, but it is better to have some people affected by missing some events than for the entire team to miss them. Also, if some of our team members have such an unfortunate work from home situation that they can't attend a short daily meetings, that situation can also prevent them from attending a larger meeting held more rarely. It is also easier to recover from small missed checkpoint meetings held each day than from a larger checkpoint meeting held once per week, for example. So there is a person on your team who is leaving in few weeks. He is refusing to provide a knowledge transfer to another team member. He had acted unprofessionally, but it seems like there are no consequences for him. Is there anything you can do it to get him to do his job and provide the handover? The loss of key personnel is always a project risk. We can mitigate such risk through our technical or administrative controls, separation of duties, and cross-training. But the risk level will never be zero. In order to mitigate this type of risk, we should ensure our project team is cross-functional. Everyone on the team should have at least basic knowledge of how the system works, where key elements are documented, stored, and how our role in business continuity plan. Guard against low bus factors in your project. No individual should ever be the single point of failure for your system or your process. Have a documented business continuity plan (BCP) that includes knowledge, passwords, key, escrow, and clearly defined recovery processes. Proactively test business continuity and disaster recovery plan. Do not wait until someone quits or is fired to discover whether your plans work effectively. Have a clearly defined process for onboarding and offboarding people from the project, including the granting and revoking of access to your project resources. A sprint cycle involves development and QA. At the end of the sprint, the tasks worked upon and tested are showcased and released. Typically for a team of 5 to 7 developers, there would be a one QA resource. What are the developers expected to do when QA is happening? Since the number of developers is much higher than the number of QA testers, bug fixes get done very quick and developers are left with nothing to do towards the end of the sprint. What is expected of the developers during this QA testing while following Scrum? This question has some false assumptions about the linear nature of testing within an agile process. There are 3 roles in a Scrum: product owner, Scrum master, and development team members. Development team is meant to be a multifunctional team working towards the same goals. It's fine to have people with different skills in QA in development, but if you have team members who only can do very specific things, like a tester who can do only manual testing, that is a problem you need to fix. A mature agile team with cross-functional skill set treats development and testing as interlinked activities rather than as a sequential one. We should strive to integrate development and testing so that they are not fundamentally separate work streams. Activities should be cross-functional. Testers should be involved early and often, helping the developers design testable features by working on test criteria from the beginning before a single line of code is written, and helping to ensure that tests are written first. The QA folks should be running continuous integration every single day so that there is a tight and ideally immediate feedback loop between development and testing. By working with the developers rather than being treated as a separate follow-on activity, QA becomes an intrinsic part of design and development cycle rather than an externally. They could be doing a number of things. What they should be doing depend on organization Scrum maturity. But few things they can do like QA work, yes. Devs can do QA, whether that's writing new automated tests, updating existing test coverage or reducing test complexity, doing manual testing or performance load testing. Devs can add should QA. The entire teams own the quality of the product. Tech depth, refactoring, defect fixing. Spike for bigger functional stories coming in next sprint. Learning new skills, both soft and technical. End of a sprint is a great time for continuous improvement to occur. Refine the backlog, working with PO to elicit technical consideration. Improving tooling or process around continuous integration. During estimation, the product owner presents a user story that seems clear to a team that usually knows their strengths and weaknesses, and that is not hostile. What should be the Scrum Master do if the story is judged very differently by the team members, but they can't convince each other enough to agree on a story point estimate? For example, let's say two opinions arise. Some see this as a rather easy story, two-pointer, and other foresee technical complications and judge that the story should be 13-pointer. The two-pointer voters say, I understand your opinion, but don't think those complications are valid. The 13-point voter says, the past tells us that these things are always a lot more complicated than they seem. We assume that if the issue is not clarified, the 13-point voter will not commit to the user story if it is underestimated. What should the Scrum Master do in this case? Go for the average, choose the worst case, or accept this user story as high risk with only a semi-commitment during sprint planning? Much of the Scrum value to an organization is in creating transparency. 100% agreement is not the real point of planning poker. The goal is actually to narrow the cone of uncertainty around the feature estimates as much as possible and to make the level of efforts and potential project risk of each story visible to stakeholders. It is very likely at this point that the estimates will differ significantly. If estimates differ, the high and low estimate explain their estimates. The group can discuss the story and their estimator for a few more minutes. After the discussion, each estimator re-estimates. The point is that you can keep re-estimating as long as opinions are converging. The key, of course, is that the people need to talk about why their estimates are outlier, so that the team can consider this information when re-estimating each round. If you still have outlier after discussion has been exhausted or when the time box has expired, then you have to use your team's defined process to find a reasonable compromise. You can do whatever seems reasonable in such cases. Generally, teams agree beforehand on a compromise process, but it's okay to change it on the fly so that the end result is always somewhat reasonable. Some options for compromise includes discard outlier, then calculate the mean. This is usually my preferred method when a story has been properly decomposed. Calculate the average including any outlier. Split out continuous tasks into separate but dependent stories that can be estimated separately. Remembering that estimates are educated guesses. Sometimes the problem is the story being estimated. A key point here is that all the stories must be estimated to see if they fit within the current sprint. But the stories you estimate don't have to be copies of the current product backlog item. Remember, the first half of the sprint planning involves the participation of the product owner. So a story estimate is a perfect opportunity to work hand in hand with the PO to rescope or refactor stories which have potential issues. The PO can work with a team to split or rewrite stories or reprioritize the product backlog on the fly to swap in a different story that fits better within the current sprint. Scrum emphasizes that all members of the team must know the technical depth of the product, but sometimes this depth is not tangible as a simple to-do list. Should we register it as another task in the product backlog to review in another sprint, or should we put it in some document related to this product so the team can actually know what tasks should be treated later in the development? How can we register the technical depth in Scrum? As a general rule, technical depth increases the cost of future work on the product. So even if you don't explicitly keep track of the depth, it will typically shows as a drag on matrices such as team velocity over time. Technical depth will probably also impact your team's estimate of product backlog items (PBIs) during sprint planning, as faulty code and the depth-ridden product in general are naturally take higher efforts. Even though Scrum implicitly exposes technical depth through velocity and also reflected within the PBI estimates, it's often better to track the depth explicitly on the product backlog. Some reasons to do this include clarify what work need to be done within the project to pay down the depth, enabling the product owner to make trade-off in prioritization between technical depth and new features, providing stakeholders transparency into hidden cost of the product development, keeping the project honest by treating work as work. Technical depth is just another kind of work that remains to be done. Create PBIs for the technical depth the same way you would for any other type of work. The PBI should be written at whatever level of granularity would be appropriate for the work's level of prioritization within the backlog. For example, you might keep some valuable but non-essential refactoring as an epic for some day. In contrast, essential patches or rework should be written as individual user stories when the team is ready to decompose the work done during sprint planning or during backlog refinement when the work is likely to be in scope for an upcoming sprint. Your team technical leader has a number of things to be working on to support the team, which only that person can do because of responsibility, contractual obligations, skill knowledge level, or system access permissions. Should that work go on the board? How should this work be handled? Should the technical leader simply report that they deliver a lower amount of time to the team's sprint than regular team members, or should we absolutely commit to having everything on the board regardless, or somewhere in between? How you will tackle this kind of situation? One of the key features of Agile is transparency. This means presenting the fact as it. All people involved, the customer, individual, contributor, are transparent in their day-to-day dealing with others. They all trust each other and have the courage to keep each other abreast of good news as well as bad news. Everyone strive and collectively collaborate for the common organizational objective, and no one has any hidden agenda. Invisible work leads to a less effective communication, less accurate estimate, and loss of trust over time within the team and among stakeholders. So don't do this. 100% of work that consumes team capacity should be reflected on your project plan. This means that the work your team lead is doing should be on the team board because it consumes a portion of team capacity because the team lead is a member of the team. Effort expended on these invisible tasks is efforts that is not being spent on something else. It represents work in progress which should have a visible impact on your WIP limits. Estimate that ignore invisible work often fail to set stakeholder expectations and may impact the accuracy of future estimate. If the work is important enough to be done or essential to delivering the product, then it should be visible, accounted for in the project budget and plans. This does not mean each minor task needs to be a separate user story or product backlog item. However, it does not mean that it should be trackable work and clearly reflected within the estimates the team is providing for its work. This means that the team lead's currently invisible work should be prioritized by the product owner as an essential component of product delivery, discussed during sprint planning to identify impacts on capacity in relation to the sprint goal, estimated along with all other work for the sprint, documented on the sprint backlog for tracking, and deducted from available team capacity to perform other work. If anyone argues that these things are unnecessary or do not apply to the team lead's work, then you have a process problem. In that case, I'll take a long hard look at how this work actually relates to the sprint goal and the team's process to determine if this work is truly on the critical path. If it's on the critical path, you must make it visible to adhere to the Scrum framework. If it's not on the critical, then it's wasteful effort that should be eliminated. It's up to the Scrum team to collectively evaluate this and come up to the right determination for your project team and organization. Thank you for watching. I'm sure you have learned something new today. Do not forget for upcoming second part of video. Please click subscribe and hit bell icon so you will get notification. All the best for your upcoming interviews.